What if I told you that every single breath you take contains a secret so powerful that ancient masters guarded it for thousands of years, and that right now, as you're watching this video, you're sitting on the most profound spiritual technology ever discovered by humanity? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Right now, as you're listening to these words, you're breathing approximately every 4 seconds. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It's so automatic, so natural, that you probably haven't given it a second thought today. But what if I told you that in those 8 seconds, that simple cycle of breathing in and breathing out, lies the most direct pathway between your soul and the divine that has ever existed? Has this ever happened to you? You're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, maybe even disconnected from yourself, and someone tells you to just breathe. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Too basic to actually work. But what if that advice is actually pointing towards something far more profound than anyone realizes? What if conscious breathing isn't just a relaxation technique, but the master key that unlocks dimensions of reality most people never even know exist? The renowned spiritual teacher Emmet Fox understood something that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. He knew that your breath isn't just air, moving in and out of your lungs. It's the direct language between your individual soul and the infinite intelligence of the universe. Every inhalation is a conversation with cosmic wisdom. Every exhalation is a prayer being sent into the quantum field of infinite possibilities. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might surprise you, challenge everything you thought you knew about the simple act of breathing, and potentially transform how you experience every moment of your life moving forward. You see, the ancient civilizations knew something we've forgotten. The Egyptians didn't just stumble upon the perfect proportions for their pyramids. They built these monuments following sacred breathing patterns that connected them to cosmic consciousness. When the Sufis spun in their mystical dances, they weren't just moving their bodies. They were synchronizing their breath with the rhythm of the universe itself, entering states of ecstasy that modern neuroscience can barely begin to understand. The yogis of ancient India developed breathing techniques so powerful they could literally stop time, activate what they called the light body, and access levels of consciousness that seemed to transcend the very laws of physics. These weren't myths or metaphors. These were practical technologies of consciousness that used the breath as their foundation. But here's what's truly fascinating. This knowledge didn't disappear by accident. It was deliberately hidden, fragmented, scattered across different traditions and mystery schools, because those who possessed it understood its incredible power. They knew that a human being who truly understands the sacred science of breathing becomes impossible to control, impossible to limit, impossible to convince that they are anything less than divine. For centuries, this wisdom has been kept in the shadows, passed down only from master to student in the most secret corners of temples and monasteries. But something is shifting in our world right now. Humanity is awakening to truths that have been dormant for millennia, and the time has come for these secrets to be revealed. What you're about to learn isn't just theory. It's a practical map back to your own inner power, a step-by-step guide to reclaiming the birthright that was yours before you forgot who you really are. And it all begins with understanding what's really happening every time you breathe. When you understand what's really happening every time you breathe, you realize that each inhalation and exhalation is actually rewriting the fundamental code of your existence. Emmet Fox discovered that when you change how you breathe, you're not just changing the oxygen levels in your blood. You're literally transforming the information that reaches every single cell in your body. Think about this for a moment. Your nervous system, which controls everything from your heartbeat to your capacity to love, to create, to heal, to experience freedom. All of it is directly influenced by the quality and consciousness of your breathing. This isn't some abstract spiritual concept. This is hardcore biology meeting ancient wisdom, and the implications are staggering. Every decision you make, every emotion you feel, every thought pattern that shapes your reality can be transformed through the most practical and powerful technique ever discovered: conscious breathing. It's like having a direct hotline to your body's operating system, the ability to upgrade your internal software with every breath you take. But here's where this journey takes an unexpected turn, and where the hidden truth behind our relationship with breathing becomes almost heartbreaking in its revelation. Your very first breath, that moment when you emerged into this world, wasn't just the beginning of your physical life. It was actually the first trauma your soul experienced, an involuntary betrayal of your own divine nature. Stay with me here, because this revelation changes everything. Before you were born, you didn't breathe air at all. You breathed pure life itself through your mother's umbilical cord, existing in a perfect dance of cosmic rhythm, where there was no separation between giving and receiving, between inhaling and exhaling. You were literally one with the universe, breathing the breath of eternity itself. In that sacred space, you were connected to infinite consciousness, floating in perfect harmony with the divine source. Your entire being was a breathing meditation, a constant flow of pure love and cosmic intelligence. You were breathing spirit, not air. You were breathing unity, not separation. And then came that pivotal moment, your birth, when the umbilical cord was cut, and your tiny lungs had to take their first desperate gulp of air. In that instant, your infinite soul was suddenly trapped in a finite body, forced to breathe through physical lungs instead of cosmic consciousness. That first cry wasn't just a sign of life. It was your soul's first experience of separation from the divine. This birth trauma becomes the unconscious template for how we breathe for the rest of our lives. We carry this primal memory of separation in every breath, this unconscious fear that we might not get enough, that we're somehow cut off from our source. It's why so many people breathe shallow, anxious breaths. They're still unconsciously trying to reconnect with that lost paradise of perfect unity. Now, I want to go even deeper into this revelation, because understanding your first breath is the key to reclaiming the power that was yours before you forgot who you really are. This isn't just about breathing techniques. This is about healing the deepest wound your soul has ever experienced, and remembering your true nature as a divine being, having a human experience. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to remember," if this resonates with something deep inside you. The moment that umbilical cord was severed, your nervous system experienced the most profound shock it would ever encounter in your entire lifetime. Picture this: 1 second you're floating in perfect cosmic harmony, completely supported, never questioning whether life would sustain you. The next second, you're thrust into a world where survival depends entirely on your own effort, where you must breathe by yourself or face death. This wasn't just a physical transition. It was a complete transformation of your entire relationship with existence. Your infinite consciousness, which had never known limitation, suddenly found itself compressed into a tiny, vulnerable body that had to fight for every breath. That first desperate gasp wasn't simply oxygen entering your lungs. It was the moment your eternal spirit accepted the shocking reality of mortality and began counting the beats of a suddenly fragile heart. Think about the profound impact of this shift in your mindset about life itself. Before birth, you existed in a state where breathing was effortless, automatic, cosmic. You were literally breathing the universe itself. But in that first moment of independent breathing, you forgot the most fundamental truth about who you are. You forgot that you were infinitely more than that small, crying body struggling to adapt to this strange new world. This universal birth trauma creates a hidden blueprint that influences every decision you make about trusting life, about believing you're supported, about whether it's safe to fully receive what the universe wants to give you. Behind the scenes of your conscious mind, this primal experience whispers that you're separate, that you're alone, that survival depends on your own effort rather than on the infinite intelligence that created you. Emmet Fox understood that this birth trauma becomes the unconscious foundation for how we approach everything in life. We develop what I call a scarcity breath, breathing as if there might not be enough, holding back, never quite, trusting that we're truly supported. We breathe like survivors, rather than like the divine beings we actually are. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything. This trauma isn't a permanent curse. It's actually a doorway to the most profound spiritual awakening possible. When you understand what happened in that first breath, you can begin to heal it. You can learn to breathe again from that place of cosmic unity you knew before birth. Your journey back to that original state of divine breathing is possible because somewhere deep in your cellular memory, your body still remembers what it felt like to breathe as one with the universe. Every cell in your body carries the template of that perfect breathing, that effortless flow of life force that existed before you learned to be afraid. Now, I want to reveal something even more extraordinary about how this birth trauma specifically shaped the way you breathe today, and more importantly, how recognizing these patterns can unlock revelations about your true spiritual nature that will fundamentally alter how you experience reality. Write in the comments, "I remember," if you can feel that deeper truth stirring within you. The discoveries made by Dr. Stanislav Grof revolutionized our understanding of how those first moments of life create the fundamental blueprint for everything that follows. His groundbreaking research revealed that the deepest emotional patterns governing your entire existence are actually established in those critical first moments when you transition from womb to world. These aren't just psychological theories, they're measurable, observable patterns that shape your decisions, your relationships, and most importantly, the way you breathe for the rest of your life. Grof identified what he called basic perinatal matrices, essentially emotional imprints that become hardwired into your nervous system during birth. These matrices determine not just how you breathe, but how you fundamentally relate to life itself, how you experience safety, trust, and your basic sense of belonging in the world. The impact of these early patterns is staggering because they operate completely behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, influencing every choice you make. Your breathing pattern right now, as you're watching this video, carries the signature of that first traumatic separation. If you breathe shallow and anxious, you might be unconsciously reliving the shock of suddenly having to survive on your own. If you hold your breath when stressed, you could be recreating that moment of uncertainty when life hung in the balance. These aren't conscious decisions. They're automatic responses programmed into your system before you even had the ability to think. But here's where this journey takes a profound turn toward hope and transformation. The hidden truth that changes everything is this: forgetting isn't permanent. That first universal trauma, forgetting who you really are, can be healed. You can remember what it felt like to breathe spirit instead of air, to exist as pure consciousness rather than a limited physical form. Before you had lungs, your entire soul was an organ of cosmic breathing. Every cell of your being pulsed with divine rhythm, connected to the infinite source of all life. You didn't just breathe, you were breath itself. You were the very movement of universal consciousness expressing itself through form. That state of perfect unity, that effortless flow of divine energy, that complete trust in life's support, all of this is still available to you. The revelation that will transform your entire approach to breathing is understanding that those original patterns of cosmic breathing are still encoded in your DNA, still present in your cellular memory. Your body remembers what it felt like to breathe as one with the universe, and through conscious practice, you can reactivate those dormant pathways. Now, I want to share with you the specific technique that Emmet Fox discovered for accessing those deeper levels of breathing consciousness. The method that can literally reprogram your nervous system to remember its original state of divine unity. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to breathe again," if you feel that ancient memory stirring within you. The most liberating truth you can embrace right now is this: your current breathing doesn't have to remain trapped in that original pattern of separation and fear that was established at birth. You have the power to completely reprogram how you breathe, to reconnect with that state of unity and absolute trust that existed before you ever knew what it meant to be afraid. The breath moving through your lungs right now is the same breath that has sustained every human being throughout history. It's the same life force that animated the greatest mystics, artists, and awakened souls who ever lived. This realization changes your entire relationship with breathing, because you begin to understand that you're not just an isolated individual struggling to survive. You're part of an infinite web of consciousness, breathing together with all of life. Every inhalation connects you to the cosmic intelligence that moves the stars, grows the trees, and beats your heart without any effort from your conscious mind. But here's where most people miss the deeper transformation that's possible. Emmet Fox discovered that there's a profound difference between breathing merely to keep your body functioning and breathing to be truly alive. The hidden truth behind our modern epidemic of anxiety, depression, and spiritual emptiness is that most people are breathing like the walking dead, taking in just enough air to survive, but never enough to truly thrive. Watch people around you throughout your day, and you'll notice something startling. They're breathing as if life is something that happens to them rather than through them. Their breath is shallow, restricted, fearful, the breath of someone who has forgotten their divine nature and believes they're separate from the source of all life. This survival breathing creates a mindset of scarcity, competition, and constant vigilance, because when you breathe from fear, you experience life as threatening. True breathing, the kind that transforms your entire reality, happens when your soul breathes through your body to remember its divine nature. This isn't just a poetic metaphor, it's a practical technique that changes the actual chemistry of your blood, the electrical patterns in your brain, and the energy field that surrounds your entire being. When you make the decision to breathe from your soul rather than your fears, everything shifts. The impact of this transformation goes far beyond just feeling more relaxed or centered. When you breathe from your soul, you begin to make decisions from wisdom rather than reactivity. You start attracting circumstances that align with your highest good, instead of constantly struggling against life. Your relationships deepen because you're no longer breathing the energy of separation. You're breathing connection, love, and recognition of the divine in everyone you meet. Now, I want to reveal the specific stages of this transformation and show you exactly how to recognize when you're breathing from survival versus when you're breathing from your soul, because understanding these differences will completely revolutionize how you experience every moment of your life. Write in the comments, I choose soul breathing, if you're ready to make this profound shift in how you experience life. Understanding these three distinct levels of breathing will completely transform how you approach every breath you take from this moment forward. The first level is automatic breathing. This is purely functional, controlled entirely by your nervous system without any conscious involvement. It keeps you alive, but it doesn't make you feel truly alive. Most people spend their entire lives trapped at this level, never realizing there's so much more available to them. The second level is conscious breathing, where your mind deliberately takes control of the process. This is already transformative and represents a huge leap in your spiritual journey, but it's still limited because it's filtered through your mental patterns, your beliefs about what's possible, and your conditioned responses to life. You're still operating from the mindset that you are the one doing the breathing, but there's a third level that changes everything: soul breathing. This is where life itself breathes through you without any effort, control, or technique on your part. It's pure surrender to your deepest essence, allowing something infinitely wiser than your conscious mind to take over the most fundamental process of your existence. When you reach this level, breathing becomes an effortless dance between your individual consciousness and the cosmic intelligence that animates all life. The hidden truth behind this transformation is that soul breathing isn't something you do, it's something you allow. It requires letting go of the need to control your breath and trusting that the same intelligence that grows your hair, beats your heart, and heals your wounds knows exactly how to breathe you in the most perfect way possible. But here's where this journey reveals its most profound secret. There's a sacred space you visit thousands of times every single day, yet most people never become conscious of it. It's more intimate than any temple you could enter, more transformative than any ritual you could perform. This sacred space is the pause between your inhalation and exhalation, that infinitesimal moment where everything stops and eternity becomes present. In this threshold, something extraordinary happens. Time literally stops, your ego dissolves, the constant chatter of your mind goes silent, and in that silence, the human and divine aspects of your being meet and recognize each other. It's in these micro moments of pause that the real transformation occurs, where your soul remembers its connection to the infinite. Most people rush through these pauses, immediately moving from inhalation to exhalation, without ever resting in that sacred space. But when you learn to consciously inhabit these moments between breaths, you discover that they're doorways into expanded states of consciousness. Each pause becomes an opportunity to touch the eternal part of yourself that exists beyond all thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. Now, I want to show you how ancient civilizations used these sacred pauses as gateways to activate abilities that modern science is only beginning to understand. Revelations that will forever change how you see the relationship between consciousness and the physical world. Write in the comments, "I feel the pause," if you've ever experienced that moment of timeless silence between breaths. The ancient pranayama masters understood something that goes far beyond what we typically think of as breath control techniques. They discovered what they called kumbhaka, but this wasn't about forcefully holding your breath or using willpower to manipulate your breathing patterns. True kumbhaka happens naturally when your soul finds its perfect center, that exquisite balance point between giving and receiving, between manifesting your desires and releasing your attachments. When you experience authentic kumbhaka, there's no effort involved whatsoever. Your breath simply stops on its own because your entire being has found such perfect equilibrium that movement becomes unnecessary. It's like a pendulum that swings back and forth until it finally finds its natural resting point in the center. In that moment of perfect stillness, something profound shifts in your consciousness, and you taste what it means to exist beyond the constant motion of thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. This reveals a hidden truth about transformation that most people completely miss. We're taught to focus on action, on doing, on constantly moving toward our goals. But the masters of consciousness understood that the real magic happens in the spaces between actions, in the silence between thoughts, in the pause between heartbeats. The Zen tradition captured this perfectly with their concept of ma, the space between things. Ma is the silence between musical notes that gives music its beauty, the pause between words that gives speech its meaning, the emptiness between brushstrokes that gives a painting its soul. These wise teachers recognized that the most important element in any experience isn't the things themselves, but the space that both separates and connects them. When you apply this understanding to breathing, everything changes. The transformation you're seeking doesn't happen during the inhalation or the exhalation. It happens in the ma, in that sacred space between breaths, where infinite possibilities exist. This is where your old self dissolves and your new self is born, where limiting beliefs lose their grip and expanded awareness becomes your natural state. The impact of understanding ma extends far beyond your breathing practice. It shifts your entire approach to life, helping you make decisions from stillness rather than reactivity. You begin to appreciate the spaces in conversations where real connection happens, the quiet moments in relationships where love deepens, the pauses in your day where inspiration strikes. Now, I want to reveal how modern neuroscience has actually proven what these ancient masters knew intuitively about these sacred pauses, and how you can use this scientific understanding to accelerate your spiritual awakening in ways that will absolutely astound you. Write in the comments, "I see the spaces," if you're beginning to notice the ma in your own breathing and daily life. What's absolutely remarkable is how modern neuroscience is now proving what these ancient masters intuited thousands of years ago. Dr. Andrew Huberman's groundbreaking research has revealed that when you consciously create these respiratory pauses, you're actually activating your parasympathetic nervous system in a completely unique way. This isn't just relaxation. This is your brain literally reorganizing its neural patterns in real time. These moments of non-breathing create what Huberman calls windows of accelerated neuroplasticity. Think about the profound implications of this discovery. Every time you consciously pause between breaths, you're giving your nervous system the opportunity to reset, rewire, and reconnect from a deeper level of intelligence. It's like having a built-in upgrade system for your consciousness that you can access thousands of times per day. The hidden truth behind this scientific revelation is that your brain is most malleable, most open to transformation during these sacred pauses. This is when old patterns can dissolve and new neural pathways can form. It's during these micro moments of stillness that your mindset can shift from limitation to possibility, from fear to love, from separation to unity. But there's an even more profound way to understand what's happening in these sacred thresholds. Each conscious pause between breaths is actually a little death and rebirth that you experience thousands of times daily. This isn't just poetic language, it's a precise description of what occurs in your consciousness during these moments. When you reach the natural end of an inhalation and allow that sacred pause, something dies. The urgency that drives you through your day, the anxiety that keeps you trapped in the future, the constant identification with your thoughts that makes you believe you are your mental chatter. In that moment of stillness, all of these limiting patterns temporarily dissolve. Then, when a new breath naturally emerges from that silence, something entirely new is born. Peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances, presence that transforms whatever you're experiencing, connection to your deeper essence that reminds you who you really are beyond all your stories and roles. The impact of recognizing this death and rebirth cycle that happens with every conscious breath is extraordinary. You begin to realize that transformation isn't something that happens occasionally during peak experiences or spiritual retreats. It's available to you in every single breathing cycle, in every moment when you choose to inhabit that sacred pause between breaths. This understanding completely shifts your approach to personal growth and spiritual development. Instead of waiting for life-changing revelations or dramatic breakthroughs, you start recognizing that profound transformation is happening constantly through the simple act of conscious breathing. Now, I want to share with you the sacred names that different spiritual traditions have given to this divine breath you're learning to access, because understanding these ancient terms will unlock even deeper levels of practice and awareness. Write in the comments, "I'm being reborn," if you can feel this cycle of renewal happening in your own breathing. When you discover the sacred names that different spiritual traditions have given to what we simply call breath, everything about your breathing practice transforms. These aren't just ancient words. They're keys that unlock completely different levels of experience and understanding about what's actually happening every time you inhale and exhale. In Sanskrit, the word prana reveals a hidden truth that changes your entire mindset about breathing. Prana is so much more than air moving through your lungs. It's the universal life force itself, the intelligent energy that animates all existence. When ancient yogis spoke of prana, they were describing the invisible thread that connects your individual breath to the cosmic breathing of the universe itself. Think about the profound impact of this revelation. Every time you breathe, you're not just exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide. You're participating in the life current that flows from the stars to your heart and back to infinity. You're tapping into the same energy that moves galaxies, grows forests, and beats the hearts of every living creature on Earth. This understanding completely transforms the quality of your breathing, because you're no longer just a separate individual taking air. You're a conscious participant in the cosmic dance of life itself. The journey into these sacred names becomes even more profound when you discover the Hebrew word ruach, which appears over 300 times in the ancient scriptures. Ruach means wind, breath, and spirit all at once, but it's the same word used to describe the Spirit of God moving over the waters at the moment of creation. When Moses wrote that God breathed the breath of life into humanity's nostrils, he chose the word ruach very deliberately. This wasn't just air that God was giving to the first human being. It was God's own essence, spirit, conscious life itself being shared with humanity. Every breath you take carries this divine inheritance, this direct connection to the creative force of the universe. Understanding Ruach means recognizing that your breathing is literally a conversation with the divine, a constant exchange of sacred energy between your individual consciousness and infinite consciousness. The hidden truth behind these sacred names is that they're not just concepts to understand intellectually. They're doorways into experiencing breath at completely different levels. When you breathe, knowing that you're breathing prana, your entire nervous system responds differently. When you inhale, understanding that you're receiving ruach, something shifts in your soul that no amount of ordinary breathing exercises could achieve. Now, I want to reveal how these ancient understandings of sacred breath can be applied to one of the most practical challenges we all face. How conscious breathing can literally break the chains of fear and judgment that keep us trapped in limited versions of ourselves. Write in the comments, "I breathe the sacred," if you can feel the difference between ordinary air and divine life force. The ancient Greeks had their own profound understanding of this sacred breath, calling it pneuma, a word that simultaneously meant both breath and spirit, revealing their deep recognition that these were never separate phenomena. For Greek philosophers, pneuma wasn't just something you breathed. It was the cosmos's active principle, the divine intelligence that penetrates and animates all matter throughout the universe. The Stoics took this understanding even further, believing that pneuma was literally God's body manifesting in physical form. Every breath you take is divine substance expressing itself through your human experience, and every wind in nature is that same cosmic intelligence moving through the world. This perspective completely transforms your relationship with breathing, because you realize you're not just an individual taking air, you're participating in the very substance of divine consciousness itself. But here's where this ancient wisdom becomes intensely practical for the challenges we face in modern life. Emmet Fox discovered something that explains why so many people struggle with anxiety, fear, and a constant sense of being under threat, even when their lives are relatively safe. The hidden truth is that most of us aren't breathing with our own nervous systems. We're breathing with the inherited trauma patterns of entire genealogies. You might be carrying the breathing pattern of a grandmother who lived through war and never learned to exhale completely, or breathing with the chest tension of ancestors who experienced poverty and whose bodies learned to contract automatically at any possibility of loss. Without realizing it, you're breathing with fears that aren't even originally yours, carrying trauma in your lungs that was passed down through generations like genetic inheritance. This creates a mindset where your breath becomes rapid, shallow, constantly alert, always preparing for dangers that may never come. Your nervous system gets trapped in perpetual survival mode, making decisions from a place of scarcity and threat, rather than abundance and safety. The impact of this inherited breathing pattern affects every area of your life, from your relationships to your career choices to your ability to experience joy and peace. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that these generational patterns can be broken through conscious breathing. You have the power to become the point of transformation in your entire lineage, healing not just your own nervous system, but creating a new template for all the generations that will come after you. Now, I want to show you exactly how this healing process works, how conscious breathing can literally reprogram the deepest fear responses and free you from patterns that have been running your life from behind the scenes without your awareness. Write in the comments, "I break the pattern," if you're ready to heal the inherited fears that aren't truly yours. The breakthrough that revolutionized our understanding of fear and breathing came from an unlikely source, Wim Hof, known as the Iceman, who discovered that conscious breathing can completely reprogram your response to fear, cold, pain, and any overwhelming circumstance you encounter. His research revealed something that challenges everything we thought we knew about the relationship between breathing and our nervous system. Here's the hidden truth that changes everything. Your breathing doesn't just reflect the state of your nervous system, it can actively transform it. Through specific breathing patterns, Hof demonstrated that you can literally rewire the neural circuits that determine how you perceive and respond to reality. This isn't just about feeling calmer. This is about fundamentally changing the hardware of your consciousness, upgrading the very systems that process fear and stress. The implications of this discovery are staggering. Every time you consciously choose how to breathe, you're making a decision about who you want to become. You're actively participating in the rewiring of your brain, creating new neural pathways that support courage instead of fear, presence instead of anxiety, trust instead of survival mode. But Emmet Fox took this understanding even deeper with a revelation that completely transforms how we approach difficult emotions. Instead of fighting panic attacks or trying to push fear away, he taught something radically different: breathing toward these emotions with complete compassion. This approach requires a fundamental shift in mindset, moving from seeing fear as an enemy to recognizing it as a part of yourself that needs love. The technique is beautifully simple yet profoundly powerful. With each inhalation, you consciously fill yourself with love for the part of you that's suffering. With each exhalation, you embrace that fear like you would comfort a frightened child who needs safety and reassurance. This isn't about denying or suppressing difficult emotions. It's about transforming them through the alchemy of unconditional love. What's extraordinary about this approach is that it dissolves fear through love rather than combat. When you fight against fear, you create internal resistance that actually strengthens the very patterns you're trying to change. But when you breathe love toward fear, something magical happens. The fear recognizes that it's been seeking love all along, and it naturally dissolves in the presence of genuine compassion. This journey of breathing with love creates an entirely different relationship with all challenging emotions. You begin to see them not as problems to be solved, but as invitations to practice deeper self-acceptance and compassion. Now, I want to reveal how trauma becomes stored in very specific breathing patterns, and how understanding these patterns can unlock healing that touches the deepest wounds we carry. Write in the comments, "I breathe love to my fear," if you're ready to transform your relationship with difficult emotions. The breakthrough research of Dr. Stephen Porges revolutionized our understanding of how trauma lives in the body through his groundbreaking polyvagal theory. He identified 3 distinct modes that your nervous system operates in, and each one has its own characteristic breathing pattern that most people have never consciously recognized. The first mode is social connection, where you breathe deeply and relaxed. Your nervous system feels safe, and you're naturally open to love, creativity, and meaningful relationships. The second is fight or flight, where your breathing becomes accelerated and shallow as your system prepares to either battle or escape from perceived threats. The third is collapse, where breathing nearly stops as your nervous system shuts down completely as a last resort for survival. Here's the hidden truth that explains so much about modern life. Most people spend their entire existence alternating between fight or flight and collapse modes, completely forgetting how to breathe in that natural state of safety and connection. They've normalized the breathing patterns of stress and trauma, thinking that shallow, anxious breathing is just how life feels. The impact of this revelation is profound because it shows you exactly why traditional approaches to healing often fall short. You can't think your way out of trauma when your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. You can't make clear decisions when your breathing is signaling danger to every cell in your body. You can't experience lasting peace when your breath is constantly preparing for the next threat. But here's where this understanding becomes truly transformative. Your breathing doesn't just respond to your internal states, it can actively change them. This completely shifts your mindset from being a victim of your nervous system to becoming its conscious director. When you deliberately breathe like someone who feels completely safe, your nervous system has no choice but to reorganize itself to match that new information. Think about the revolutionary implications of this discovery. You're literally providing evidence of safety to your body through your breath, and your entire system responds by relaxing into that reality. You're not pretending to feel safe. You're actually creating the physiological conditions that generate authentic feelings of safety, trust, and connection. This technique works because your nervous system can't tell the difference between breathing patterns that arise from genuine safety and breathing patterns you consciously create. When you breathe with the rhythm of someone who trusts life completely, your body begins producing the neurochemicals of trust, connection, and inner peace. Now, I want to show you how trauma becomes locked into very specific breathing patterns and how understanding these signatures can guide you toward the exact healing your nervous system needs to finally feel safe in your own body. Write in the comments, "I choose safety," if you're ready to breathe your way into a nervous system that feels truly secure. Understanding how trauma becomes trapped in specific breathing patterns reveals one of the most profound secrets about healing that most people never discover. Long after the original danger has passed, Your body continues to breathe, as if the threat is still present, locked in survival patterns that were once necessary for your protection, but now limit your capacity to truly live. Some people develop what I call ghost breathing, so subtle and barely perceptible that they seem to disappear into themselves. These individuals often learned as children that making no sound, taking up no space, breathing almost invisibly could prevent violence, criticism, or abandonment. Their nervous system made the decision that survival depended on becoming as small and unnoticeable as possible. And decades later, they're still breathing like their life depends on not being seen. Others develop hypervigilant breathing patterns, rapid, shallow breaths that keep them constantly alert for the next potential threat. Their chest never fully relaxes, because somewhere deep in their cellular memory, they learned that letting their guard down was dangerous. The impact of these frozen breathing patterns extends far beyond just feeling anxious. They literally shape how you make decisions, form relationships, and experience your place in the world. The revolutionary work of Dr. Peter Levine in somatic trauma therapy reveals the hidden truth behind why traditional talk therapy often falls short of creating lasting transformation. When overwhelming events happen without the opportunity to complete your natural survival responses, your breathing becomes trapped in those incomplete patterns. Your nervous system gets stuck in the middle of a response that was never allowed to finish. Think about what happens in nature when a gazelle escapes from a lion. After reaching safety, the gazelle literally shakes off the trauma, completing the survival response and returning to a state of calm alertness. But humans, with our complex minds and social conditioning, often interrupt these natural completion processes. We're told to be strong, to get over it, to move on, before our nervous system has had the chance to fully process and integrate the experience. Conscious breathing provides the pathway your nervous system has been waiting for to finally complete these interrupted responses. When you breathe with awareness and compassion toward the parts of yourself that are still frozen in old survival patterns, you're giving your body permission to finish what it started years or even decades ago. This isn't about reliving trauma or diving into painful memories. It's about creating the safe space your nervous system needs to naturally complete its healing process. Your breath becomes the bridge between the frozen past and the free present, allowing trapped energy to move and transform. Now, I want to reveal the specific technique that Emmet Fox discovered for activating your solar plexus, that powerful energy center where your personal will meets divine will, and how breathing into this center can unlock your authentic power. Write in the comments, "My breath is healing," if you can feel your nervous system beginning to soften and complete old patterns. What's fascinating is how different types of trauma create completely distinct breathing signatures that you can actually learn to recognize in yourself and others. Understanding these patterns gives you a roadmap for targeted healing, because each trauma type requires a different approach to restoration. Abandonment trauma creates what I call anxious breathing, a pattern that's constantly reaching, always slightly out of breath, as if you're perpetually chasing after someone who's leaving. People with this pattern often breathe from their upper chest, never quite feeling like they're getting enough air, because their nervous system learned that being left behind was the ultimate threat. Their breathing carries the energy of pursuit, of trying to close a gap that feels impossible to bridge. Invasion trauma, on the other hand, creates completely contained breathing, shallow, controlled, careful never to draw unwanted attention. These individuals learned that taking up space or breathing too visibly could attract dangerous notice, so they developed a breathing pattern that makes them almost invisible. Their chest barely moves, their breath is silent, and their entire respiratory system operates in stealth mode. Betrayal trauma creates the most guarded, breathing pattern of all, a hypervigilant style where every inhalation seems to be evaluated for safety before being allowed into the body. These people breathe as if each breath might be their last opportunity to assess whether the current environment is trustworthy. Their breathing carries the weight of having learned that even those who claim to love them could become sources of harm. The transformation that becomes possible when you recognize your specific trauma breathing pattern is extraordinary. Instead of trying to force yourself to breathe differently, You can begin with compassion for why your nervous system developed that particular survival strategy. You can appreciate the intelligence behind the pattern while gently inviting your body to explore new possibilities for breathing. Now here's where this journey leads to something truly empowering. Emmet Fox discovered that there's a specific energy center in your body where conscious breathing can activate your authentic personal power, the solar plexus, located in that soft area between your sternum and your navel. This isn't just another breathing technique, this is about awakening the place where your individual will meets divine will. When you consciously direct your breath toward this center, you're activating what the Hindu tradition calls Manipura, the fire chakra, the center of personal power and transformation. The Kabbalists understood this same energy center as Tiferet, the point where heaven and earth literally touch through your being, where divine light becomes available for practical manifestation in your daily life. The impact of activating this center through conscious breathing extends far beyond just feeling more confident. You begin making decisions from your authentic self rather than from fear or conditioning. You start attracting circumstances that align with your true purpose instead of constantly struggling against life. Now, I want to reveal the specific technique for awakening this solar plexus power and show you how this ancient practice can become your most practical tool for creating the life you truly desire. Write in the comments, "I activate my power," if you're ready to breathe life into your authentic personal strength. The hidden truth about your diaphragm will completely transform how you understand the power of solar plexus breathing. Most people think of the diaphragm as simply the muscle that helps you breathe, but cutting edge research reveals something extraordinary. It's actually the most neurologically connected muscle in your entire body, with direct pathways to your autonomic nervous system, your limbic system, and your prefrontal cortex. When you breathe deeply into your solar plexus, you're not just filling your lungs with air, you're literally massaging your vagus nerve, that crucial pathway that activates your body's natural healing responses, enhances creativity, and opens you to what science now calls manifestation states. These are neurological conditions where your brain becomes optimally configured for turning ideas into reality, for attracting synchronicities, and for accessing intuitive guidance. The impact of this discovery revolutionizes everything we thought we knew about the relationship between breathing and consciousness. Your diaphragm isn't just moving air, it's pumping life force through your entire nervous system, creating waves of coherence that ripple through every cell of your being. But Emmet Fox understood something even more profound about what happens when you breathe consciously into this power center. He discovered that sustained solar plexus breathing awakens what he called the pulse of God in your nervous system, a rhythmic expansion and contraction that transforms your entire experience of being alive. When this divine pulse activates, your diaphragm literally becomes your soul's heart. Instead of pumping blood, it's pumping consciousness. Instead of circulating oxygen, it's circulating divine possibilities. Instead of moving air, it's moving sacred energy through every cell of your body. This isn't poetic metaphor. It's a measurable shift in your bioelectric field, your brainwave patterns, and your heart rate variability. People who experience this divine pulse report profound changes in their decision-making abilities, their relationships, and their capacity to create positive change in their lives. They develop what I call spiritual magnetism, a quality of presence that naturally attracts opportunities, resources, and people that align with their highest good. The journey into this state requires understanding that you're not trying to force anything to happen. The divine pulse emerges naturally when you create the right conditions through conscious breathing, when you approach this practice not as a technique to master, but as a sacred conversation with the deepest intelligence of your being. Now, I want to reveal how this activated solar plexus breathing becomes the foundation for the most powerful transformation of all, learning to literally exhale your past and inhale your future, rewriting your identity with every conscious breath you take. Write in the comments, "I feel the pulse," if you've experienced that rhythmic expansion of divine energy in your own breathing practice. When you truly understand what's happening in each conscious breath cycle, you realize you're participating in something far more profound than simple oxygen exchange. You're engaging in voluntary death and deliberate rebirth thousands of times each day. Every conscious exhalation becomes an opportunity to die to who you thought you were, releasing not just air, but entire identities, old stories, and limiting beliefs that have been running your life from behind the scenes. Think about the revolutionary implications of this revelation. You're not just releasing carbon dioxide when you exhale. You're releasing the version of yourself that believed you were limited, that carried wounds as if they were permanent fixtures of your identity, that operated from patterns inherited from others rather than chosen by your authentic self. Each exhalation dissolves ego attachments, those invisible chains that keep you trapped in versions of yourself that were never truly you. This process of conscious dying through the breath creates space for something extraordinary to emerge. The patterns you've been carrying, the fears that belonged to your parents, the limitations imposed by society, the beliefs about what's possible that you absorbed before you were old enough to question them. All of these can be released with a single, conscious exhalation when you approach breathing as sacred practice rather than automatic function. But the real magic happens when you understand what's occurring during conscious inhalation. You're not just taking in air, you're downloading new life, new information, new possibilities directly from the source of all creation. Each conscious breath in becomes an act of receiving divine memory, reconnecting you with the essence that existed before you learned to fear, before you believed in separation, before you forgot your naturally luminous nature. The impact of this practice on your daily life is transformative because you begin making decisions from this expanded identity rather than from your conditioned patterns. Your mindset shifts from, "What's wrong with me?" to "What wants to emerge through me?" You stop trying to fix yourself and start allowing yourself to be continuously reborn into greater versions of who you've always been. This breathing practice becomes a direct pathway to cellular reprogramming. Your DNA responds to the quality of your consciousness, and when you breathe with the intention of releasing old programming and receiving divine information, you're literally updating the software that runs your biological systems. Now, I want to reveal how this practice of conscious death and rebirth through breathing creates the perfect foundation for what Emmet Fox considered the ultimate spiritual technology, the marriage of conscious breathing with focused imagination to create entirely new realities. Write in the comments, "I release and receive," if you're ready to die to your old self and be reborn with every breath. The hidden truth about cellular reprogramming through breath goes far deeper than most people realize. Recent research in epigenetics shows that your gene expression changes based on your emotional and energetic states, but conscious breathing takes this to an entirely new level. Each time you practice conscious breathing with intention, you're literally rewriting your cellular history in real time, erasing survival codes that were programmed during times of stress or trauma, and activating dormant codes of prosperity, love, and creativity that have been waiting for your remembrance. Think about the profound implications of this discovery. You're not just breathing air, you're updating the internal program that determines how you interpret reality, how you respond to challenges, and what you believe is possible for your life. Your cells are constantly receiving information from your breath quality, and when you breathe consciously, you're downloading new operating instructions that transform you from the inside out. But this cellular transformation reaches its true potential when combined with what Emmet Fox discovered to be the ultimate spiritual technology, the marriage of conscious breathing with focused imagination. This creates genuine alchemy, the transformation of base consciousness into spiritual gold. In this sacred process, breath becomes the fire that provides the energy for transformation. Imagination becomes the metal that gives form to your desires, and your heart becomes the anvil, where new reality is literally forged. The journey into this alchemical practice reveals why so many manifestation techniques fail to create lasting change. Without conscious breath, imagination remains cold and formless, just wishful thinking floating in your head, without the energetic power to influence physical reality. Without imagination, breath dissipates its transformative potential, becoming just another wellness practice rather than a tool for conscious creation. When these two elements unite through your heart center, something extraordinary happens. You're no longer trying to force reality to change through willpower or positive thinking. Instead, you're creating coherence between your vision and your life force, allowing your breath to carry the information of your imagined reality into every cell of your body and out into the quantum field of infinite possibilities. The impact of this practice on your decision-making processes is revolutionary. You begin operating from inspired action, rather than effortful striving. Opportunities align with your vision because your entire being is radiating the frequency of what you're choosing to create. Your mindset shifts from, "How can I make this happen?" to, "How can I allow this to emerge through me?" Now I want to reveal how this alchemical breathing practice becomes the foundation for something even more extraordinary. Using your breath as medicine for your body, healing at the cellular level by speaking directly to your biological intelligence. Write in the comments, "I am the alchemist," if you're ready to forge new realities through the sacred marriage of breath and imagination. When you combine conscious breathing with imagination focused through your heart center, you're creating something that researchers are calling heart coherence, a state where your heart and brain synchronize their electrical rhythms, creating optimal conditions for both cognitive performance and emotional stability. But this goes far beyond just feeling better. You're literally creating coherence between your physical body and your soul, between your current reality and infinite potential. The Institute of HeartMath has documented how this coherent state optimizes every aspect of your functioning. Your decision-making abilities sharpen, your emotional reactivity decreases, and you gain access to what they call higher perceptual capacity, the ability to see solutions and possibilities that simply aren't available when your heart and brain are operating out of sync. But what they're measuring scientifically, Emmet Fox understood. Spiritually, this coherent state opens you to creation abilities that transcend ordinary thinking limitations. When you breathe from your heart, while holding a clear vision of what you want to create, you're not just imagining, you're informing your entire biological system about the new reality you're choosing to experience. Your nervous system begins reorganizing itself to support this vision. Your cells start producing the biochemistry of your imagined future, and your energy field radiates, the frequency that attracts aligned circumstances. The hidden truth that transforms everything is understanding that your body contains the most sophisticated pharmacy ever created, one that never closes, requires no prescriptions, and produces no harmful side effects. This internal pharmacy activates automatically through conscious breathing, releasing medicines more powerful than anything external science has discovered. Coherence that harmonizes all your systems, divine information that guides, perfect healing, and pure love that dissolves the root cause of all illness. Every conscious breath you take sends specific healing instructions to your biological intelligence. Your cells respond to the quality of your breathing by producing different proteins, activating different genes, and creating different neural pathways. When you breathe with love and intention, you're literally downloading healing information from the source of all life directly into your DNA. The impact of this revelation shifts your entire relationship with health and well-being. Instead of waiting for your body to break down and then trying to fix it, you become a conscious participant in your own healing and optimization. You stop seeing your body as separate from your spirit and start experiencing it as the sacred vessel through which your soul expresses itself in physical form. Now, I want to reveal the ancient, forbidden technique that mystery schools have guarded for millennia, the specific breathing pattern that activates your light body and awakens abilities that most people believe are impossible. Write in the comments, "My body heals itself," if you're ready to activate your internal pharmacy through conscious breathing. The fundamental shift that changes everything about healing is understanding that true restoration occurs through loving communication with your body, rather than fighting against it. Your body isn't your enemy. It's been your most faithful companion since the moment you were born, working tirelessly behind the scenes to keep you alive, processing every emotion you've ever felt, storing every memory you've ever made, adapting to every challenge you've faced. When you approach healing through conscious breathing, you're creating a sacred dialogue space where you can nurture health rather than combat illness, where you feed harmony rather than fight symptoms. Your breath becomes the language through which your soul speaks directly to your cells, sending messages of love, appreciation, and healing intention to every organ, every system, every molecule of your being. The impact of this shift in mindset transforms your entire relationship with your physical form. Instead of seeing symptoms as enemies to be defeated, you begin recognizing them as your body's way of communicating what it needs for balance and healing. Instead of approaching your health with fear and resistance, you start engaging with it from curiosity and compassion. But this, loving communication with your body through breath, was only the foundation for something far more extraordinary that ancient mystery schools understood. In the hidden temples of Egypt, the secret monasteries of Tibet, and the concealed circles of Sufi masters, there existed a technique so powerful that it was transmitted only from master to student in absolute secrecy, a master key practice that could awaken dormant consciousness centers and activate what they called the light body sleeping within every human being. This forbidden technique centers around a specific breathing pattern that modern science is only beginning to understand. The 7-1-7-1 rhythm, 7 counts of inhalation, 1 count of retention, 7 counts of exhalation, 1 count of empty pause. But this wasn't just a breathing exercise. It was combined with precise golden light visualization and focused solar plexus activation to create an alchemical transformation that transcended the normal limitations of human consciousness. The masters who guarded this secret understood that when executed with proper intention and preparation, this technique could literally rewire the nervous system, activate dormant genetic codes, and open perception to dimensions of reality that most people never even suspect exist. They knew they were dealing with a technology of consciousness so profound that it could awaken abilities that seemed impossible, abilities that could only emerge when someone had prepared their heart, purified their intention, and developed the spiritual maturity to handle such power responsibly. Now, I want to walk you through this sacred sequence step by step, exactly as it was transmitted through these ancient lineages, and show you how to adapt this timeless wisdom for your modern life. Write in the comments, "I am ready for the secret," if you feel called to receive this ancient transmission. The sacred sequence that was transmitted through these ancient lineages requires both precision and surrender, combining exact timing with profound spiritual intention. The complete technique begins with inhaling for 7 heartbeats, not counting seconds, but actually feeling the rhythm of your own heart as your guide, connecting your breath to the very pulse of your life force. During this inhalation, you visualize golden light entering not just through your nostrils, but through every pore of your skin, as if your entire body becomes a receptor for divine luminosity. The 1 heartbeat pause that follows isn't about holding your breath with effort. It's about allowing the golden light to concentrate and gather in your solar plexus, creating what the masters called an internal sun. This moment of retention becomes sacred when you use it to feel this concentrated light activating your personal power center, awakening the dormant fire that can transform your entire reality. The 7 heartbeat exhalation carries this activated light throughout your entire body, expanding from your solar plexus in waves of healing energy that reach every cell, every organ, every system. You're not just breathing out air. You're breathing out transformation, allowing this divine light to establish new patterns of health, creativity, and spiritual awareness throughout your physical form. The final 1 heartbeat pause in emptiness is perhaps the most profound part of the entire sequence. Here, you rest in infinite potential, in the space where all possibilities exist, simultaneously. This isn't absence, it's pregnant fullness, the cosmic womb from which all creation emerges. The impact of regularly experiencing this state rewires your nervous system to recognize that emptiness and fullness are the same thing. But after months or years of practicing this sacred sequence, something extraordinary begins to happen that transcends all technique. You enter what Emmet Fox called the stage of effortless being, where you stop doing the breathing and allow breathing to do you. This isn't a new technique to learn. It's a recognition that arrives naturally when you've prepared your consciousness sufficiently. In this final transformation, you realize the hidden truth that changes everything. You were never the one breathing. You were always being breathed by life itself, by the same cosmic intelligence that moves the stars, grows the trees, and beats your heart, without any effort from your conscious mind. Your journey from struggling with breath control to surrendering to being breathed represents the ultimate spiritual maturation. When you reach this state of effortless being, your simple existence becomes a blessing to everyone around you. You become what the ancients called a silent messenger, someone who transmits the truth that all beings are one, all breathing together in the great cosmic lung of existence. Now, I want to share with you how this transformation from technique to effortless being can happen naturally in your own life, and what signs to look for as you progress along this sacred path. Write in the comments, "I surrender to being breathed," if you're ready to release control and trust the infinite intelligence that animates your life. When you've traveled this far into the sacred mysteries of breath with me, I know you're someone who recognizes that this isn't just information, it's transmission. You're part of a growing community of souls who are remembering their divine nature, who understand that consciousness and breath are intimately connected, and who are committed to this profound inner work. If this journey has resonated with something deep within you, I'd love for you to become part of our ongoing exploration. Subscribe to this channel, because what we're sharing here isn't available anywhere else. These are the real secrets, the practical mysticism that can transform your daily life. We're building something beautiful together, a space where ancient wisdom meets modern understanding. And if you've stayed with me all the way to this moment, leave a comment saying "I breathe with you," so I know you received this complete transmission. There's something powerful about acknowledging when a teaching has truly reached your soul, and your comment becomes part of the energy that helps this wisdom reach others who need it. The connection we've created through these words, through this shared understanding of the sacred breath, deserves to be acknowledged. Hit that like button, not just for the algorithm, but as a way of saying yes to this path, yes to remembering who you really are, yes to breathing consciously in a world that has forgotten how sacred this simple act truly is. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into manifesting through breathwork, showing you exactly how to apply these principles to create the life your soul is calling you toward. Click and continue with me over there, because this is just the beginning of what's possible when you truly understand the divine secret hidden in every breath you take, until we breathe together again.